G'day folks, it's Phil from 15-Minute Guitar Practice here. In today's lesson we're going to take on part 2 of Tomo Fujita's Playing the Changes over a Jazz Blues in B flat. In part 1 we looked at the solo itself, the notes he was playing and the phrasing. And in part 2 today we're going to be looking at the chords and how to play a jazz blues in general. So let's get started. So the first thing you need to know about a jazz blues is it's very similar to a standard blues, a 1-4-5 progression that you will know very well. A jazz blues has a 1 chord, a 4 chord, and a 5 chord, but there's a couple of tweaks. Generally, there's a tweak to the latter part of the progression, which I'll tell you in a moment, and also, obviously, because it's jazz blues, there are more chords interspersed with that 1, 4, and 5. So let's talk about the main tweak to the ending. In a regular 12-bar blues, you'll have in B flat, like we are, you'll have our 1 chord being our B flat 7. We'll have our 4 chord of E flat 7. And we'll have our 5 chord of F7. So those are still in this progression, okay? But towards the end of a blues, you will typically go from the 5 chord to the 4 chord and back to the 1 chord. In a jazz blues, that tends not to happen. It's replaced with a 2-5-1 turnaround. So instead of the move from the 5 chord to the 4 chord to the 1 chord, you are moving from the 2 chord to the 5 chord to the 1 chord. So if I'm in the key of B flat, my 2 chord is going to be here, 2 frets up, and we're going to be playing a C minor 7. C minor 7 is the 2 chord. We play our F7 as normal, as the 5 chord, and back to our 1 chord B flat 7. Okay, so that's the main difference. There's a couple of other things that happen in a jazz blues, and we will cover those as we get to them. Now, when you want to move from just playing scales in solos to understanding what's going on at a deeper level and making your playing more sophisticated, it's really all about the chords. I'm a big evangelist nowadays of deterring people from following the path of learning scales in order to solo. Because in the last 10 years, pretty much every single guitar player that's come to me has been locked in this pentatonic box shape, kind of no man's land that started really well for them and they were able to improvise, but after a few years, all their stuff sounds the same, they don't know what other notes to play, and so it's my experience that the idea that to be able to learn to improvise and solo is based on your knowledge of scales is not a good one. You're far better off focusing on chords and notes in the chords to help you build a sophisticated solo. So the first phrase is all around this B flat 7. We've got this shape, and I like this shape, and you will too, because it's a diagonal shape that's easy to remember. I'm on fret 8 on the D string, fret 7 on the G string, and fret 6 on the B. Okay, so it's this diagonal shape. What's happening here, and for most of this solo, is you're playing notes in and around a shape like this. It might be this exact shape or might be variations of this shape or another shape, but they're all notes in and around this shape. So for example, this shape has 3 notes. And we start our phrase playing the first note in that shape, and then we play the second note in that shape, and then we do some other notes in between that's higher than the second note, higher still, and then we go very high, and then we eventually land on the third note in that shape. So that's the key, remembering shapes and playing in and around the shapes. Another key thing to remember with the jazzier stuff is we have kind of target notes and we have approach notes. So target notes, typically the notes in a particular shape that you're eventually going to play, and approach notes will be notes that are below that note or above that note, typically 1 fret below. So, for example, here, instead of playing the 8th fret of the D, I might go start 1 fret below and then play the note, the target note. So approach note, approaching the target note from below, and then the actual target note. So instead of playing, you could approach from below each one of those target notes. And that's where you can start to develop some interesting phrasing. In terms of the chords, what I think can go under this nicely is we start with a B flat 7, then we play a B flat 9, then we play an E flat 9, and then we play an E diminished 7, which kind of follows that ascending. Okay, so fingerings for those chords, if you don't know, our B flat 7 is one you should know. It's just a standard root 6 bar chord. Okay, it's going to be 6 on the bottom E, 8 on the A string, 6 on the D, 7 on the G, and then 6 on the B and top E. Okay, so that's your B flat 7. B flat 9. This might not be a fingering you're familiar with, and it might look weird to you because this is a B flat 9, but it is a rootless voicing. Okay, that means there's no root. The root, because it's a B flat 9, is this B flat note here on the bottom E, but I'm not playing it. I'm actually just playing this. And that would be, in terms of frets, nothing on the E, 5A, 6D, 5G, and 6 on the B. Then we're moving to our E flat 9. Okay, that's 6 on the A, nothing on the E, 6 on the A, 5 on the D, 6, 6, 6 on the G, the B, and the top E string. And then we're going to play our E diminished 7. So that's going to be 7 on the A, 8 on the D, 6 on the G, 8 on the B string, and 6 on the top E. And then we hit back to the B flat 7. The next phrase is this one. Now, remember I said the key to this more sophisticated soloing is recognize the shapes and that you're playing notes in and around those shapes. We have this diagonal shape that we dealt with the B flat 7. We have it here, 2 frets down, that forms part of this phrase. And again, we also have approach notes. We approach it from 1 fret below. So our target notes are going to be this one, and this one. This shape is a major triad shape. If you add one more note to this here, you get a major triad, a major 7. It's not a major triad at all. You add to the major triad one more note, and then you get a major 7 chord. Okay, and that's what's being played here with a couple of extra notes. So if you're playing a major 7 arpeggio like we just did, you would think, okay, if we're playing an A flat, major 7 arpeggio, the chord must be an A flat major 7. But the weird thing is that that major 7 arpeggio is being played over a minor chord. It's being played over that F minor 7. Of course, you're going to have questions about why. The simple answer is the more notes you add into a chord, the more potential things you can superimpose over that chord. So, for example, for our A flat major 7, or here, or here, for that is a 4-note chord. If we add one more note into the mix to make that a 5-note chord, we can actually transform it into sounding like a minor chord because it becomes a minor chord. Here is our F minor 7. Okay, if you play this, which is an F minor 9, which is just a variation, an extension of a 7th chord. It's a nice one, it's one of my favorites. You can hear it's very minor sounding. But all we've done is taken a 4-note chord, which is our major 7 chord, and we've added one more note to it. So we've got a 5-note chord, which is our F minor 9. But 4 of those notes are actually the A flat major 7 we had before. We just added the root note in there, and that's changed the chord and the tonality. So if you want to know what notes to play over any chord, the answer is always the notes of that chord. And so here we are playing 4 notes out of the 5 notes in that chord, and those 4 notes happen to be the major 7 arpeggio that's contained inside this F minor 9 chord. A lot to take on board, okay, because I know it's quite confronting to think about playing major stuff over a minor chord and it working, but that's the reason. Then we're playing this. Now this is basically spelling out our B flat 7 chord again, with an approach from below. So we've got the flat 3 to the 3, then the 5, flat 7, and the 1. I mean, you can hear how that sounds bluesy. Okay, so we're going back from our F minor 7 to our B flat 7. But I wanted to make a slight jazzy change to this, so I made this not a B flat 7, but a B flat 13. Okay, B flat 7 sounds like this, B flat 13 sounds like this. So there's only really that one kind of distinctive note difference. So you could play that if you want, a B flat 13. I'm fingering 6 on the E string, nothing on the A string, 6 on the D string, 7 on the G, and 8 on the B. You can swap out that chord, that 13th chord, for any 7th or 9th chord. When I say any, I don't mean replace a B flat 7 with an F sharp 13. I mean, take your B flat 7 and you could also play a B flat 13 instead. Or if you have a B flat 9, you can swap it for a B flat 13. Okay, and then after that, we get to this phrase. Now, not many notes in that phrase, just 3. 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3 in terms of unique notes. It's spelling out the chord that's like 1 fret above our target chord. Because you do that a lot in blues, right? You kind of go, slide in from 1 fret above or 1 fret below. So that has our B, flat 7, then is our E9 to our E flat 9. So when we are hitting our E flat 9, the melody is this. Okay. Do, 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 do. Or you could make it an E flat 7 as well if you want. Do, do. Okay, and then after that, next is a flurry of descending notes. And that goes over our E diminished 7. I'm sure you can hear how the notes of that diminished 7 chord and the notes fit. Okay? Then we have that very bluesy, typical bluesy chord, bluesy phrase, which is going back to our B flat 7 again. And then we've got this descending. So this bit is all related to our B flat 7. We've got our 3, our 2, our 1, and our flat 7. That's why it works over this. And then, but when we hit this flat 5, 6, and so when we hit that flat 5, I've opted to put in this C sharp diminished 7. It should be D flat if we're in the key of B flat. You should refer to it by that. But it is just there to reinforce that note. Okay, so we've got 4 on the A string, 5 on the D, 3 on the G, and 5 on the B. And this, that note there, the 7th fret of the G string is perfectly aligned, or is a note in this G7 chord, and that's the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're not sure about these note numbers and stuff, you basically, whatever chord that you're on, if you want to analyze, if you're in a G chord, you start playing the G major scale, walk up until you find the note. So that's a note. I know it's a 5 because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we head to this G7 chord, and then we play this. And that is a G7 arpeggio starting on the 3, well, 1 fret below the 3. So if you take it in the context of your chord shape, you'll see it's like 3 on the G. Okay, and this is the flat 3 moving to the 3. Again, very bluesy thing to do. Then we're playing the 5, the flat 7, the flat 2, and then the 1. And then we get this really nice series of double stops. And that is basically going to go over the 2-5-1 that we talked about. So the 2-5-1 is our C minor 7, as you remember. And we're just basically taking 2 notes out of that C minor 7 and playing approach notes. So 1 fret below to our target notes. And then we're taking 2 more notes out of that chord, which is there, obviously, under the bar. Okay, that's our 5 and flat 7 of our C minor 7. There we get to there, which is our 2 or our 9 and our flat 7. So all in line with that. And then we get this lovely bit. And that When that lands, it's the change to our F7. And then back to our B flat 7. And when I play that little Count Basie ending. Okay, and then I play. Yeah, I added that little bit on the end. Tomo doesn't do that, but it's just a nice way to end that song in it, and also a jazzy way. That is the Basie ending, which you'll hear in many jazz standard songs, but for me, it really stood out at the end of Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. So that's the chords underneath. I've taken your time quite significantly today to talk about the ingredients in chords. If you don't know your ingredients in the chords, it's vital that you do, because it's the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching a man to fish. Learning chord shapes is all well and good, but you want to know how to build your chords and know the ingredients so you can be creative, make your own interesting and different chord voicings. If you want to go deeper on that, then please check out my course, Complete Chord Clarity. Also, we've done a little bit of theory, maybe a little too much for some of you, and I understand if you're a bit like, dude, it's too much. That's okay. Like I said, take bite-sized pieces of theory, circle back, even if you understood half of what I've talked about today in terms of theory, come back again a little later, and you will find that you get a little more understanding. It's incremental. I think that's all from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. It's been quite a long one. Thank you for sticking with me. If you have any questions, then please leave them in the comments below. You can get the tab on Patreon. And if you'd like anything else covered or explained, then also leave me a comment below. Give me a thumbs up if you've liked this lesson. And if you are in the mood, then why not subscribe? This is Phil from 15 Minute Guitar Practice, saying bye for now. Cheers.